Guys, the election is less than 1 week away, and if you're a gun owner and you're not sure which way to vote, or even worse, you're planning on not voting at all, we need to talk. Let's get to it. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you did not already know, my name is Jay Casa, and I am just a red-blooded American patriot living behind enemy lines, some would say, here in the state of New Jersey. And if you get value after watching this video, please smash that like button down below, and also consider subscribing because we are building a community here of like-minded individuals who live in this state, New Jersey, as well as other blue states like it, where we have to always consistently, constantly fight for and protect our Second Amendment God-given rights. So if that interests you, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you can stay up to date on my weekly videos. But in this video, I'm going to cover the election, how it'll affect us as gun owners, and how we can actually sway the results of the election coming up soon. This is all hopefully to help you understand and help you make a better, more informed decision on who to vote for and why you should vote in the first place in order to protect and defend our Second Amendment rights. Now, I know this channel is not political per se, but in my opinion, guns in the United States are inherently political. I mean, where do you think the Second Amendment came from, and who do you think wrote it? But with the demographics of gun owners changing within the last handful of years for a myriad of reasons, I think it's important to remind ourselves what's important, what we stand for, what we believe in, and why it's important to vote in order to enhance and protect our Second Amendment rights. Now, according to a survey from Vote for America from back in the summer of 2024, 10 million gun owners and or hunters are not even registered to vote. Now, according to Vote for America, who conducted this research and also actually goes out and tries to get out the vote for Second Amendment advocacy, they said that many people that don't want to register to vote simply explain that they don't think their vote counts and they think the system's rigged. So it's basically a rebellious factor that's probably ingrained at least a little bit in all of us, let's be honest. But the desire to rebel against the system cannot blind us from the imminent threat that we face from both politicians as well as the system at large that we want to rebel against. In order to talk about this, we need to talk about the origin and the meaning of the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. What do these words mean? Well, they mean that we, the people, have the right to defend ourselves with arms from threats. Those threats can include many things, including intruders, invasions, and tyrannical government, and those rights shall not be infringed. Now, how do we as gun owners fight for our Second Amendment rights? Well, many gun owners who don't vote may think that we can't fight for our Second Amendment rights, that we have no say and we should not even partake in the system and basically just stock up on ammo waiting for shit to hit the fan. But here's the thing. You hear about certain lawsuits and cases that both go against our Second Amendment right as well as protect and help enhance our Second Amendment rights. Most recently, of course, it would be the Bruen decision that effectively gave back the right to carry a firearm to many blue state citizens out there, myself included. I have personally been carrying a firearm every single day because of the Bruen decision. The Bruen decision should be proof that who we vote for and how we vote truly matters. Do you think if Hillary won in 2016 that I'd be able to exercise my Second Amendment right and carry a firearm every single day? I don't think so. And with possibly 2 and maybe even 3 Supreme Court justices being opened within the next 4 years, now is as important of a time as ever to vote and vote responsibly. But here's the thing about cases and lawsuits. Cases and lawsuits are challenging already existing laws to be unconstitutional. How do these laws get passed? Well, they get passed by gun-grabbing congressmen and women who have no respect for the Second Amendment and don't trust you to properly carry and defend yourself with a firearm, all while being protected by their own armed security. So before lawsuits, you need to vote. You need to vote up and down the ballot for candidates that protect and defend your Second Amendment rights. You should be voting against assault weapon bans. You should be voting against red flag laws. You should be voting against high capacity magazine limits. And you should be voting against certainly mandatory gun buybacks. Now let's get to the actual candidates that everyone's going to be voting for. As I mentioned before, Senate, House, and even your local elections are just as important and maybe even more so important than a presidential election, but it would be a mistake for me to ignore the fact that there is a big difference between these two presidential candidates. So first, let's see Vice President Harris's position on the Second Amendment. Put it lightly, Vice President Harris has morphed on many different positions over the years, so I think it's easiest to go back and look at her days before she was even a senator. Harris spent 6 years as Attorney General of the wonderful blue state of California, during which time she oversaw the massive expansion of a controversial program that seized firearms from citizens. She fought to keep the state's 10-day wait period in place. She was a big proponent of California's quote-unquote micro-stamping law, even though there's no guns on the market that are even capable of micro-stamping. And she was a key figure in the Peralta versus San Diego case, which unsuccessfully challenged the shall issue and may issue part of the concealed carry permit process and application in the state of California. Then she became U.S. Senator. And what she did then, first and foremost, was she co-signed the assault weapons ban written by Dianne Feinstein. She also signed on to a bill that would have expanded the ability for the U.S. federal government to research gun control laws as a public health issue. And she supported another law that expanded background checks to all private transfers across the country. She was also a co-sponsor of mandatory gun lock legislation and supported a bill that would outlaw the digital publication of plans to create a firearm. Since shifting to vice president in the White House, in the current White House under Joe Biden, she has actually been the lead head of an office that they created called the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention. The entire staff answers to her directly, and this staff is filled with very pro-gun control advocates. Now that Vice President Harris is running for president, she has tried, in my opinion unsuccessfully, to try to backtrack some of the more aggressive gun control policy positions that she has held in the past, like a mandatory gun buyback program, a vow to expand background checks to all private sales, a promise to gut the legal protections that gun manufacturers have from frivolous lawsuits, and institute a fine system of up to $500,000 for so-called law-breaking gun manufacturers and companies. That being said, her current website states that her plan on gun control is to, quote, ban assault weapons in high-capacity magazines, require universal background checks, and support red flag laws that keep firearms out of criminals' hands and possession. And she has stated that she will do this, if she has to, with executive authority without the approval of Congress at all.
I will give the United States Congress 100 days to get their act together and have the courage to pass reasonable gun safety laws. And if they fail to do it, then I will take executive action.
Now, how does Donald Trump stack up to Kamala Harris on the Second Amendment? Well, Donald Trump did seem to have less pro-Second Amendment stances before he was in politics, but became a fair supporter of the Second Amendment once he got into politics. So I think it's most efficient and effective to actually look to see what he did and what policies he stood on as a politician. So in his first term, Donald Trump had a lot of pro-Second Amendment advocates in his cabinets in very prominent positions. This resulted in a very gradual cleanup and repeal of many of the former administration's aggressive gun control policies and measures, which allowed us to have a much more open and free Second Amendment environment in this country. He also fired the former administration's Surgeon General, who consistently treated gun violence and called it a public health issue. In March of 2020, at the beginning of COVID, he did make sure that the workers at gun manufacturers, ammo manufacturers, as well as range officers were under the protected list of quote-unquote essential workers. Imagine if that was not the case. Imagine the cost of ammo and what it would have been if all the ammo manufacturers were shut down for months on end. Additionally, while in office, he did continue to address the NRA conference that they always have, which was a first for any sitting president. Now, on to the negative part of Donald Trump and the Second Amendment. Back in 2018, after a mass shooting, he did seem to support some sort of red flag laws, where he said, quote, take the guns first and do due process later. He also verbally supported the idea of increasing the minimum age to own a rifle from 18 to 21. And he did help propose a rule, basically made bump stops illegal and put them into a machine gun or fully automatic category. Since his re-election bid in 2020, Donald Trump, in my opinion, became a much stronger advocate and staunch supporter of the Second Amendment. For instance, if you looked on his website, he very explicitly stated that he supported national reciprocity for concealed carry across the country. But quite possibly the largest achievement that Donald Trump had was during his first term with all of the federal judges that he appointed. These were constitutional judges that overturned many of the overarching and unconstitutional gun control measures across the country. This did include the Bruen decision, which we already talked about, that essentially said that all of these blue states saying that they don't have to per se issue a concealed carry permit which allows someone like me in a blue state like New Jersey to exercise my full Second Amendment right. And it did also include his own 2018 bump stock ban, where the courts ruled against it, saying that the ATF acted outside of its authority. His 2024 re-election campaign has been much of the same from 2020, where he basically vows to get rid of every single gun control, anti-Second Amendment measure and executive action created by Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the last 4 years. So who do you vote for? Well, to me, it's very obvious that there's one party that essentially wants to strip away your Second Amendment rights to the bare minimum at the least. And at the very worst, they want to confiscate your firearms. They say it to us over and over again. Every once in a while, they could try to trick you and say that they have a Glock or say that they go hunting.
I bought it when I was shooting a lot of traps.
So that means that somehow they're a Second Amendment supporter and advocate, which we all know is a lie. Does that mean that the other side will be perfect? Of course not. Nobody's perfect except God alone. But let it be known that no matter how you vote or feel, I plan to vote for anybody that has any sort of realistic chance to beat a gun-grabbing liberal Democrat. So guys, as you can see, it is extremely important, especially this election cycle, because our Second Amendment rights are online. So we need to get out and vote, whether it's early or in person. Send a group text to all your gun buddies. Ask them how they're voting. Make sure they're voting. Get them out to vote as well, because our Second Amendment rights are on the ballot. They're on the line, and the choice couldn't be more clear. So what we all need to do is fight for our God-given right to keep and bear arms, because the security of a free state depends on it. That is it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. This should be a good one. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, if you agree or disagree. Are you planning on voting? If you are, tell me who you're voting for. And if you're not, tell me why. I appreciate you guys as always. And if you like this video, you will love my custom created playlist on firearms. I'll put a link in the description box down below, as well as up in the corner right now. So definitely check that out. I appreciate it as always, and I will see you next time.